Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for listening either online or here in person to the On the Safe Side podcast with our special guest today. We are live in San Diego at the 2022 NSC Safety Congress and Expo, and we're on the Expo floor at the NSC booth. And my name is Barry Botino. I'm an associate editor at Safety+Health. I'm with my colleagues, as always, Mr. Alan Ferguson. Hello, Alan.
Hey, how you doing?
Kevin Drewley. Hello, Kevin.
Barry, hello.
We have a special guest today here with us, and we're grateful to have Doug Parker, the Assistant Secretary of Labor, with us. Thank you, Doug, for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, no, again, Doug, you appreciate it, and glad we were able to schedule you. And I know you're a busy man lately, so we thank you for joining us. Your safety journey brought you through sunny California as head of Cal OSHA. What part of those experiences and any others in your career have you now brought with you to federal OSHA?
Thank you. And again, thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. You know, I really look back to where my career began as an attorney back in the 90s, working as a staff counsel at the United Mine Workers is sort of the origins of my journey. I wasn't directly working in health and safety at the time, but when you're working with workers who are in such an inherently dangerous environment, an inherently dangerous industry, where health and safety has been such a historic part of how the unions developed and how it's organized and where its priorities have been, it sort of becomes part of the DNA of the work that you do. So, you know, I worked with folks who had been directly involved in mining tragedies, worked with folks who were from communities where they had multiple family members who had suffered occupational disease. And so it just became an important kind of, an important issue that was underlying sort of everything we did at the mine workers. And so it was actually because of that time doing traditional labor law at the mine workers that I ultimately got more directly involved in health and safety, because the former director of health and safety there invited me to join him to work with him at the Mine Safety and Health Administration during the Obama administration. Mm-hmm. And so that's really how I got my start in my first full-time job doing health and safety.
So you've been at your current job for about a year right now. Is there anything unexpected or surprising that's happened during that tenure?
Well, it was certainly a whirlwind at the beginning, because I got, you know, it's a hurry up and wait game. You know, you get nominated, you have a confirmation hearing, and then you get a confirmation vote, and then boom, you're on stage. So I was on the job about 3 or 4 days before we signed the mandatory vaccine and testing rule. And so that was a real trial, going through that process, trying to get my bearings on all the other issues that were pressing at the agency, trying to get my own sort of sea legs there and learning how to sort of operate within the organization while we had this major litigation going on. So that was, I wouldn't say it was a surprise, but it was certainly a challenge. My other observations about being at the agency is just the level of dedication of staff, you know, really mission-oriented people, highly professional, a range of skills, you know, a very diverse portfolio of work that we do in health and safety. And so many more aspects of the job than we had at California. Although in California, we do have some sort of unique missions at Cal OSHA. So, for example, inspecting amusement rides, for example, that's not a part of federal OSHA. But, you know, it's sort of the international work and just a variety of things that happen at OSHA that really programs that I was just learning about when I came there. So it's been fascinating.
Sure. Could you tell us, Doug, a little bit about what's on OSHA's radar, both short-term and long-term right now?
Well, I'll talk a little bit about the regulatory front.
Sure.
So our most immediate action is working on the COVID-19 rule, finalizing our rule for healthcare. So we're hoping to get that done very soon. We're working diligently on that, and, you know, as we speak. And then we'll be working on, our next priority is going to be heat. And of course, everyone, I think, who's in health and safety has been following our work on heat. There's been a lot of great work across the country, both with some of the state plans, as well as progressive employers who have really stepped up and come up with a lot of innovative ways to address heat. So really happy to be a part of that overall movement, which is really what it is, kind of a cultural shift that we've seen over the last 5 years, thinking about heat the recognition of it as a hazard in a way that we certainly weren't talking about, just a few years ago.
Certainly.
You started again a year ago during an unusual, unprecedented time, right in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. How has that affected your plans and the agency's vision?
Well, it's certainly taken resources to address COVID-19. And it's certainly affected the timeline on other important work that we want to do. And so I'm looking forward to now having a little more breathing room to work on other important priorities, both our other rulemaking priorities, addressing some of the exciting things we're doing on the enforcement front in terms of reviewing our policies to make sure that we're really being bold about addressing the most egregious behavior by employers who are really disregarding the law. And I'm also looking forward to focusing more on our compliance assistance efforts and how we can promote through outreach health and safety as a core value, kind of getting beyond just working on compliance and really talking more in the kind of public sphere in the health and safety community about the importance of going beyond compliance and really embracing health and safety as a core value.
So kind of speaking of compliance, there's a lot of people who may view OSHA from an enforcement standpoint, kind of us versus them mentality. How should OSHA kind of change that narrative, or how can they change that narrative?
Well, I think that we're always going to be an enforcement agency. That's always going to be a core part of what we do. But I think that there's a number of ways that we can try to address that gap. One, of course, is to do some work to build greater trust between the employer community and our compliance assistance programs. So, there is a strict wall between our enforcement efforts and our consultation efforts. And I think we can make that more clear. We can think about how we are branding that and make sure, particularly with smaller employers, the ones that we want to reach through our programs, that we are there to help, that we do have folks that will come in and assist a small or medium-sized business in developing a health and safety management system, how to do hazard recognition, how to do all the things that you need to do. We're also leveraging our Safe and Sound program. That's historically been something we do in August, but we're trying to do more of that throughout the year. And I'm very excited about some of the tools that we've really collected on the Safe and Sound website recently that really gives small and medium-sized businesses the tools to start building out a health and safety management program on their own, starting with things as basic as how to write a mission statement, how to create a vision for health and safety, how to get greater worker participation, how to put in place a hazard recognition system and do basic training, and just all kinds of modules so that this journey that a lot of people might initially find intimidating is laid out in a way where people can take one step at a time, one bite at a time, and really build their program from the ground up.
Doug, we're all here in a convention center full of safety professionals. As we wrap up here with you today, is there anything else you'd want safety professionals to know about OSHA and the work you guys are doing?
Well, I come back to that theme of health and safety as a core value. We're very eager to work with labor unions, with workers, with the employer community, with the states, with manufacturers, and the vendors here to lift up health and safety as a core value. We are eager and excited to have folks participating more in our rulemaking process so that we can get all the great ideas that are in this room can be kind of focused on how we can, for example, create a better rule on heat, or create a better rule on infectious disease, or any of the other variety of rules that we're working on or modernizing through our rulemaking process. But we want to see that, we want to have that kind of engagement with the health and safety community writ large. We think that it's good for OSHA to have that exposure to the industry, and we think that it's good for the industry if we have a stronger relationships with them.
Sure. Doug, we're grateful for the conversation
Yes, thank
today.
you so much.
And thank you for being here in San Diego with us.
My pleasure. My
Yeah.
pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank
To our
you.
listeners out there, please feel free to share this with a fellow safety pro that you know. And remember, please stay on the safe side.